new super heavy, inert and useless element discovered called governmentium. Peak fear coming as peak oil, peak food and peak flu scare the shit out of you. D-Day celebrations for election success of right-wing fascist Nazis in Europe. In the UK, democracy by media stalled as crucifixion of Gordon Brown is delayed. Hello optional extras, welcome to the fucking news. I'm Namely Water. Here are the headlines tonight. The periodic table will soon have a new addition, the super heavy element 312 or governmentium. Here's Professor Grant Funding announcing the discovery.
A team of scientists used a 120-meter long particle accelerator to fire a beam of charged zinc atoms at lead atoms. Nuclei of the two elements merged or fused to form the nucleus of the new element, governmentium. Governmentium has 1 neutron, 25 assistant neutrons, 88 deputy neutrons and 198 assistant deputy neutrons, giving it an atomic mass of 312. Who are the people in that? These 312 particles are held together by forces called morons, which are surrounded by vast quantities of lepton-like particles called pions. Since governmentium has no electrons, it is inert. However, it can be detected because it impedes every reaction with which it comes into contact. A minute amount of governmentium can cause a reaction that would normally take less than a second to take from 4 days to 4 years to complete. Governmentium has a normal half-life of 5 years. It does not decay, but instead undergoes reorganization, in which a portion of the assistant neutrons and deputy neutrons exchange places. In fact, governmentium's mass will actually increase over time, since each reorganization will cause more morons to become neutrons, forming isotopes. This characteristic of moron promotion leads some scientists to believe that governmentium is formed whenever morons reach a critical level of concentration. This hypothetical quantity is referred to as a critical morass. When catalyzed with money, governmentium becomes administratium, an element that radiates just as much energy as governmentium, since it has half as many pions but twice as many morons.
In a totally unrelated story, concerns over Earth's ability to support so many morons, humans, have returned, with a global rise in the cost of food and oil, as well as the swine flu outbreak soon to be upgraded to a pandemic by the World Sickness Organization. Peak events on Earth have been postulated many times. Peak oil is inevitable, peak food also, and both of these events have far-reaching consequences for human populations. But there are some things we will never be short of. Peak fear, peak dumb, and peak asshole will sadly never happen. Due to a curious scientific anomaly, the amount of stupidity and number of assholes in the world remains constant until very low numbers of humans remain. So, if peak fear, flu, oil, food, bummer nuclear war reduce the population by half, those surviving will be twice as stupid as before, and so on, until a saturation point of stupidity is reached when humans simply cannot be any dumber. This is known as the DO moment, and is accompanied by a realization that we were collectively the most selfish, rapacious, destructive, and short-sighted ignorant species the planet has ever come up with. And, if we're lucky, a few of us will live to see another Stone Age. And if the planet's lucky, humans will make themselves extinct by pissing in their water supply, chopping down their trees, and destroying stuff just to make rich people richer. More on that story later. A swing to the extreme right in elections to the European pig trough, Parliament, has taken many people by surprise, as celebrations for the liberation of Europe on the 65th anniversary of D-Day mingle with reports of the election of racist, Nazi right-wing extremists across the continent. Some see the swing as a protest vote, but is it much simpler? Here's our political correspondent hobnobbing with tossers.
65 years ago, on these beaches, American, Canadian and British troops fought to defeat Hitler and rule Europe. Liberate Europe themselves. Since then, economic slavery, fake fear of war with Russia and other things kept most people too busy to notice the dick up their ass fucking them over for a buck. Or that despite national governments, they were in fact ruled by a few wealthy banking families and their aristocratic henchmen. I'm sorry, that a few wealthy aristocratic families and their wealthy banking henchmen. So what of the success of Nazis in these elections? The BNP, the fascists, some would say the men who died here fought to save us from racists and fascism. Others would say, you must be fucking joking, mate. We were the biggest Nazis on the planet before the Second World War, and the British Empire was the biggest the world had ever known and subjected billions to its rule. America still had segregation of blacks and whites, and these were the good guys. So, let's not worry about a few token fringe votes, because the major political parties of Europe are the quizzling Nazi middlemen of our shadowy corporate puppet masters, and the BNP are a sideshow racists to distract us from the real dick in our assets. Fake money, fake economy and fake war. Some would say the D-Day landings, far from liberating people, ensured the slavery of Europeans, and that as a result, never has so much been owed by so many to so few.
Thanks. In a totally related story, Gordon Brown is still clinging to power despite repeated attempts by the media to crucify him. Endless calls for him to go and relentless name-calling by every newspaper and commentator have so far come to nothing, as Gordon stoically remains. But what does this say about our democracy? Shouldn't we be able to get rid of our leaders when we're told to by Rupert Murdoch? I mean, the press? Shouldn't we be able to have a Tory government when their supporters say so? I, for one, can't wait for the chinless, privileged, wealthy prats in the Conservative Party to get their thieving hands on taxpayers' money, so we can have some nice, honest sucking up to big business and none of this apologetic New Labour guff. Gordon Brown didn't release this statement through his Downing Street office.
I am the elected leader of my party and the unelected leader of this country. I don't have to step down or hold an election till next year, so fuck you. I'm the son of Tony Blair, the one brown to rule them all. I'm the king of the castle. Nah.
Thanks, and now the weather. A lot of loose talk about the movement will be followed by no significant constructive organisation of anything. Life will go on or not for some time, or just a little bit more until it doesn't. Everything will be excruciatingly beautiful forever. Few people will notice and many will be unhappy even if they do. Have a nice weekend.